Hi guys, welcome back to the 401 Files. My name is Ben and it's an absolute pleasure to have each and every one of you back here with me. Thank you for taking time out of your day to sit here with me and discuss some of these topics that we love to talk about, i.e. the extraterrestrials, the Bigfoot phenomena, paranormal, whatever it may be. You guys have taken the time out of your day to sit here with me and I really do appreciate that. So just recently guys, I read an article on my phone that was talking about Proxima b. Now Proxima b is an orbiting planet of our nearest star to the solar system, which is Proxima Centauri. And astronomers and scientists are talking about whether life could exist on Proxima b and how that would differ from life here basically on Earth. I just thought that was very interesting, this article to read, and I wanted to share it with you guys along with a few of my thoughts as well. So however long this video may be, you know the drill. Kick back, grab yourself a coffee guys, relax and enjoy. So they're asking the astronomers, why were you looking at Proxima Centauri? And well, Proxima Centauri is the closest star to the solar system. A couple of years ago, a team discovered that there is a planet called Proxima b orbiting the star, and it's just a little bit bigger than Earth. It's probably a rocky planet, and it's in what we call the habitable zone, or the Goldilocks zone. This means that Proxima b is about the right distance from the star so that it could have liquid water on its surface. But this star system differs from the Sun in a pretty key way. Proxima Centauri is a small star called a red dwarf. It's around 15% of the radius of our Sun, and it's substantially cooler. So Proxima b, in order for it to be in the Goldilocks zone, actually is a lot closer to Proxima Centauri than Earth is to the Sun. You might think that a smaller star would be a tamer star, but that's actually not the case at all. Red dwarfs produce stellar flares a lot more frequently than the Sun does. So the person asking these questions to the astronomers then asks the question, what did you find? And the article reads like this. In 2018, my colleague Meredith McGregor discovered flashes of light coming from Proxima Centauri that look very different from solar flares. She was using a telescope that detects light at millimeter wavelengths to monitor Proxima Centauri and saw a big flash of light in this wavelength. Astronomers had never seen a stellar flare in millimeter wavelengths of light. My colleagues and I wanted to learn more about these unusual brightenings in the millimeter light coming from the star and see whether they were actually flares or some other phenomenon. We used 9 telescopes on Earth as well as a satellite observatory to get the longest set of observations, about 2 days worth of Proxima Centauri, with the most wavelength coverage that's ever been recorded. Immediately, we discovered a really strong flare. The ultraviolet light of the star increased by over 10,000 times in just a fraction of a second. If humans could see ultraviolet light, it would be like being blinded by the flash of a camera. Proxima Centauri got bright really, really fast. This increase lasted for only a couple of seconds, and then there were a gradual decline. So what the astronomers are saying here is that they've basically been observing Proxima Centauri, and they've been using different methods to do this, mainly the ultraviolet light. So they've been observing Proxima Centauri under the ultraviolet light spectrum, which, as you know, is invisible to the human eye. And when they do this, they notice that there are huge flares coming off the star, and some of those flares increase the brightness of the star almost by 10,000 times, which is incredible. And they're saying that these flares can sometimes only last a second and then disappear in the blink of an eye. So it's very interesting, it's very fascinating at this point to astronomers, to people like ourselves that do believe in extraterrestrial life, because we ask the question now, how does that affect life on Proxima b, one of the planets that orbits this star? Is it possible then that life could exist? Is it possible that these flares could potentially keep a few of those further distant planets from the star warmer? And in doing so, heighten the chances of life surviving on them as well? Well, this is the thing. Astronomers are actually exploring this very question at the moment because it can kind of go in either direction. When you first hear the word ultraviolet radiation, you're probably thinking about the fact that people here on Earth wear sunscreen to try and protect ourselves from the ultraviolet radiation from the sun. Ultraviolet radiation can damage proteins and DNA in human cells, and this results in sunburns and can cause cancer. Well, that would potentially be true for life on other planets as well. But on the flip side, messing with the chemistry of biological molecules can have its advantages. It could help spark life on other planets. Even though it might be a more challenging environment for life to sustain itself, it might be a better environment for life to be generated to begin with. But the thing that astronomers and biologists are most concerned about is that every time one of these huge flares occur, it basically erodes away a bit of the atmosphere of any planets orbiting that star, including this potentially Earth-like planet. And if you don't have an atmosphere left on your planet, then you definitely have a pretty hostile environment to live. And there would be a huge amount of radiation, massive temperature fluctuations, and little to no air to breathe. It's not a life that would be impossible, but having the surface of a planet basically directed or exposed to space would be an environment totally different than anything that we're familiar with here on Earth. So I'm not saying that life can't exist on these planets, and in fact I do believe that life will exist on these planets, because I always think and I always believe that life does find a way. And I know that sounds cliche, I know that sounds cheesy, we've heard it in films, but I really do. I believe that life is very versatile, very stubborn, and I believe that no matter what the conditions, it will always find a way. So we know that this mini dwarf star, this Proxima Centauri star, is kicking off these huge flares of ultraviolet light, and we know that that could either bode well for life or mean no life. But what does that mean for Proxima b, the planet that's orbiting this star? Does that mean that there is no atmosphere there? Does that mean there is an atmosphere there? Well, at this point, that's anybody's guess. The fact that these flares are happening doesn't bode well for the atmosphere being intact, but it definitely doesn't mean there is no atmosphere intact. At the time of this recording, guys, there is actually a team of scientists trying to run a model. Like, basically they deal with building models of planetary atmospheres, they put all the information into the computer, and out of the other end comes a statistic whether or not life could survive. So I'll be very interested to see what their findings are in the future moving forward, see what they come back with, whether or not they believe this Proxima b could sustain life, given that Proxima Centauri is kicking off these lethal ultraviolet flares. But one thing I will say is it always fascinates me when I read stuff like this, when I read that scientists are putting information into a computer to see what the prediction is at the other end. Because what information are we putting into the computer? Is it information that's based on human existence? Just because humans can't survive under ultraviolet light doesn't mean that there isn't a civilization out there somewhere that's absolutely thriving in ultraviolet light. And who knows, maybe they even need it to survive. So I'll be fascinated what the results are and what they come back with. But more importantly, I want to know what you guys think. So please do comment below in the comments box. Let me know what you think. Is there an extraterrestrial civilization out there that can adapt to potentially life-threatening elements here on Earth? For example, ultraviolet light. You guys, like I said, let me know what you think. Take it easy, stay safe, look after yourselves wherever you are in the world, and if you are in a position to do so, then please do look after somebody else as well. Until next time, guys, I'll see you on the next one.